Okay, who wants to tell what's going on? What's the latest? Maggie, can you hear me? Okay. Okay, who wants to tell some experiences, things you're learning, things that have happened last week? This is the time to do it. We'll just take one at a time. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. For the umpteenth time, I have done that chart that you had suggested that I do, or we do. And I suddenly realized that I don't know the plan. I have no idea what, it's totally, I missed something somewhere. And that makes a big difference. I mean, not to explain it, but for my own psychological reasons. I still don't fully understand it, but if I don't understand it, it gives me no real reason for utilizing the plan.
Okay. Well, I tell you, that's what I keep hearing from everybody. You know, they're saying the same thing, but I appreciate you voicing that, Noel. That's so true. Thank you. Anybody else?
Hey, Roland.
Yes.
Yeah, we started having area meetings, and we had 2 so far, and there were 40 people.
Wow.
At each one, and that with the help of Vicky Wedding and some of the other sales leaders in the group, they got them together. And I guess I'm going to have to come up there every month or every other month now. But I just know that was the missing link, is having getting everybody together for some meetings. So
sure. Thank you for that.
It was a great meeting. We had a little trouble hearing in there, but some of us are a little deaf. But, it was a great meeting. There were, like Kathy said, like 38 or 40 people there, but there were lots of testimonials, and not just on product, but on the business too. And people liking their bonus check and yada yada yada.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions of Kathy or Marion about those meetings?
Kathy did it. I just went.
Okay.
Great job.
Okay. Any questions? Anybody?
Actually, Vicky did it. But anyway, the next one's going to be on December the 6th. And it's at 6 o'clock. And because we have food, people can order food. And we've been getting people there if we have product buyers, buy their dinner and they come, or maybe tell them you'll pay for their shipping the next time and they come. If they can get something out of it, they'll come. And I'll tell you what, it makes a big difference. It's just the giving back.
That's a great number of people. My goodness, things are going to pop out of that. That's very good. Who else? Anybody else? Thank you for sharing that. Okay, well, the purpose of this Zoom and the Zooms that we will continue to have, and the ones we've had for a couple of weeks, is helping people to move ahead in Shackley and understand some basic things about moving ahead. But we're calling it the $100,000 club. $100,000 club. And this is where you add $100,000 to a year to your income. This was the whole purpose. And the first step on that, to do that, of course, is we must have an incredible, incredible passion for helping other people and making a difference. That's number one. Number two is having your why. And then do the sales plan. And then send it to me, because we can go over it. And like Noel said, he's gone over it many, many times, but I have not received a sales plan done right. And some of them are 3 and 4 times. And there's nothing wrong with that. But there are a lot of things that people don't understand about it. Then make a decision after you understand the sales plan, and you do the lines and circles, and looking at your group, and figuring out, okay, this is what I must have in terms of directors to make that 100,000 additional income a year. That's the focus. And the primary reason, of course, is because to get unstuck, to get out of the mud. And you just don't get out by saying, I'll develop one more director, maybe two directors. It's something where you say, I'm really, really going to make a big change. And so what we want to do, thank you. So what we want to do is to look at different groups, okay? And we're going to start, it may only probably take one evening just to do one. But this is where somebody has now finally put it all together in terms of what their group would look like, the income that they're going to be making. And then we can go over it and talk about what's real and what works and so on, so we can learn from that. And to be in the $100,000 club, which is going to be something that is going to catch on, because once we start getting pictures, which will be sent out every month of all the people in the club, and Steve and Shannon and so on, you don't have to be in the Osterhaus group to be a part of it. But once, every month, we're going to publicize with pictures, and it'll probably be going on the internet and everything else. These are the people in the $100,000 club. And people are going to be asking questions. What is that? And it's going to gain incredible momentum, and there are going to be a lot of people requesting, can you look at my sales plan? And it takes a while to go over it and sending it back and saying, okay, you do another one. Now, keep in mind, nobody has to do this. But when you have, what you must do to be in the club is, after you go through this process, is to have at least one person someplace in your group who wants to be in the club. That's a requirement. You got to have one person who says, I want to be in that $100,000 club. They understand they have an incredible passion for making a difference, and they have a why they're doing it. And the other thing is that they know the sales plan. So that means, because you have done it, you can go over the sales plan with them and make corrections. Because I'll guarantee you there are corrections probably on every one you will receive. There are going to be corrections. And so then, of course, they must be someone who's going to be coachable. But if you have one, then you are qualified for the $100,000 club. So it's not automatic that people are just, hey, I want to be in and I'm in. It's not going to work that way, because we want to have people who have the same focus in this group. So that way, we may have conference calls just with, or Zooms just with, the people who are in the club membership, because you're going to learn so much from each other. What are you doing? What type of meetings are you doing? How are you making that happen? So that's what the club is all about. And it's going to really, really be very good and very, very beneficial. And I know a lot of people are working on their plans and what the sales plan looks like. So what I'd like to do right now is, first of all, recognize Gary and Anita Nepper, who are the first ones who have been working on the sales plan and made all the corrections and everything else, and that finally just came in today. So what I would like to do is to put that up on the screen and talk about it. So So this is the Nepper organization that they will have to make the $100,000 a year. Now, Gary, you don't have the total income. Have you figured out the total income for this group?
No, I have not.
Okay. So I would say, based on what you sent to me before, that this will come up close to $100,000 a year additional income. Okay. So let's start. Right here. What's happening? Trying to get a pencil here to work? Okay, let's start right here with this one with Norma. Norma is one who is already in the plan as a legacy. Okay, so she is not in the dream plan. And this is how much income that, of course, they're going to be earning from Norma, and that is 7%. And this person here is going to be new in the dream plan. And because of having 4 first level leaders, there's Norma, Alex, Susan, and Barb. Because of 4 and the total volume in the group, that puts them at the key coordinator level. And this is where I'm going to go over some things, but if you don't understand all these terms and so on, this is where you must learn the sales plan. But they will be receiving 9% on that 2,000 volume, because they'll be getting 6% being a second level, and they will be getting another 5% in infinity bonus on that first level. Now they will not get, and I'm not going to go into the details of it, but they will not get that additional 5% on everybody, but they will in that area, but they will be making an infinity bonus on everybody in that group.
But
And if you
Roland,
don't
I got a question.
Yeah.
It's got $270 on Norma. That's not right. Sorry.
3%. Yeah, it's supposed to be 210.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. 210. That would be 7%. Is because Norma is a legacy.
Right.
So Barb, way to the right, is a legacy person. And so that would be another 7%. So here's what I would like to go over and explain what basically happens in the group. And that is that he's showing a fairly balanced organization. However, it generally doesn't happen that way. What really happens is that you're going to have 1 out of 4 that will add a lot to your recap. Chances are it's not going to be balanced with, at this point, with 2 strong coordinators. They're actually senior coordinators. In the beginning, now maybe in the beginning it didn't get started the way that it looks now in terms of being very balanced. Susan is part of the balance. Alex is part of the balance. Those 2 having the strength. Most of the time it's going to be 1 strong leg. But that strong leg is what's going to motivate other people to do things that they wouldn't do ordinarily because they see what's going on in the group. What the NEPers are looking for, any place in their group, they're looking for somebody, and chances are it's going to be at the 3rd level, 2nd or 3rd level sponsoring is going to be a person who will step up and say, I want to do the 100,000. I want to be in the club. But they will motivate everybody else. Now here's a situation that we have that's very good, very unique in Shackley. And if I can find my pen. Okay, so you have Alex here. That's the 1st level, and I don't know how well you know Alex. I think you know her fairly well. But it's these people down line that you don't know that are going to be listening much better and more coachable. That's always the way that it happens. So when you work with Alex or you work with any customer, the number 1 goal is to find out about them, but primarily about their family and the area they live in and how long they have been there. This is a uniqueness that we have in Shackley. Most companies, because they don't have the quality of products, they're looking for somebody like Alex who would just go out there and really hustle very, very hard. That's what they're looking for. In Shackley, if I find out about all these people that Alex knows just in our chit-chat conversation, she hasn't even said anything about the business. She just wants to feel better. And therefore, I'm going to find out how long she's been in the area. I'm going to find out about her family. Is it a close family? How many brothers and sisters? I will find a market even though she hasn't even tried a product yet. That's because we have such valuable, valuable products that work. If they didn't work, then I'm resorting to really, really trying to motivate Alex to do this business when the timing is right. I hope you can appreciate the value that we have of that, because many people, and many of you on this Zoom, came into Shackley not really interested in building a business, but you got results with the product. I want to meet these people, and let's say they're all customers. I want to meet these people. I want to meet these people. I want to meet these people. Because their volume, their business, what they're saying will boost this person up to becoming a believer, a big believer. As you've heard me say before, you put the match at the top or at the bottom, it's going to get really hot at the top. And we must understand how to get down in that depth because it's so unique to Shackley. Yesterday, I had a chance to talk to Richard Brook, and I believe he works with a lot of companies who do not have the quality products we do. And therefore, his emphasis is, and I can understand, you want to be able to find people that are really, really wanting to develop something, like maybe Alex, maybe Susan, really work strongly with those people. And I explained to him how many people are in my organization because this person got results with the product, and I congratulated them. I asked questions. I knew about their family and everything else even before they started using the product. And they said things like, well, I talked to my parents. And I said, really? You talked to your parents? Pretty soon I'm doing a meeting at the parents' house. And people come to that meeting. Some people say, hey, I'd like a skincare. This person became a director purely because they got results and they told other people because of the value of the products. So I was explaining that to Richard. I gave him a couple of examples, and he says, that's really, really, really very interesting. That is a tremendous asset that we have in Shackley that most other companies do not have. But if I'm going in and I'm talking to Alex and I'm only focusing on helping her get on the products, and I don't ask about how long she's been in the area, do you have family in the area, do you have brothers and sisters, then what I'm going to do is find another member who's going to raise my volume a little bit. And therefore, we're not going to build the depth in the organization. So I hope you understand that principle that most people do not do because they keep focusing on this person, helping them with products, which is good, but it doesn't go beyond that. I want to find out if they have a sister with kids with ADD. I want to find out if they know somebody else who's got irritable bowel syndrome. I want to find out these things. And somehow I'm going to meet those people. The first thing that Alex is going to say to me, do you have any literature for my sister? She's got a child with ADD. And the answer is no, I really don't, because it depends on diet. I want to talk to this person. So generally what Alex will do, will call her sister and say, I think you should talk to Roland. I haven't given her any information about what to take for attention deficit disorder, for irritable bowel syndrome, or anything. Because then she starts researching and thinking, well, I can just go to the health food store and buy it. So I don't tell her anything that this person would take. She'd say, well, what should I tell my sister that she should give her son because he has ADD? Well, it all depends on the diet. I don't give any information. So they will contact the sister and say, I think you should talk to Roland. And I say, okay, does she want to call me or do I call her? She basically sets it all up. That is so powerful. That is incredibly powerful to be able to do that. How come this
Roland,
doesn't?
the infinity on this is all wrong. Sorry.
And how's that?
Because you've got, so Barb is what is she, a 1, 2, 5, and 6 is 11, and 3 is 14. So she's a senior coordinator, so she gets 2% of that infinity. Susan gets 2% of the infinity.
Right.
So they don't get the full, that 2% comes out of their infinity.
Right. So let's take Susan as an example, 3,000 volume.
Mm-hmm.
That is a 6%er plus 3. So
Yeah,
that's
so
9% on 3,000.
it's very difficult to figure infinity the way that we've always done it in the, like we go across on our first levels, we make X, and on our second levels, we make X.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very confusing to do that. What I have found, because and I don't know if everybody else has done this, but I've drawn out numbers for people a lot, help them do it. So if you take your little pen and you put a circle around Barb, her entire organization, circle around Susan's entire organization, just say if you're doing Susan, so do her. And her total volume is 3, 6, 9, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 3 is 18,000. So you put that 18,000 there, and then you multiply, you put in there, she's a senior coordinator.
Correct.
So she gets 2%, and I always put that in the middle and put senior coordinator inside the circle, and then the outside, that you get 6% on that total volume. And then you add all the infinities up in the end.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a good way to do it.
Otherwise it's so confusing to try and explain it to people.
Okay, that's a good point.
Because if you've got like you said before, so up here Norma would be let's say that she's all dream. So she would be a director. So you do get the full 9% on that normally. Mm-hmm. And normally, like you said, you have an executive in there. Well, on an executive, the executive gets the 3%, and then you would get 3%. So if you do it as a circle and make that group a group, it makes it a lot easier to figure infinity.
Okay. So perhaps for many of you who are not at the point of really figuring out the sales plan, it sounds like gobbledygook. But I think once you get into it, then you can ask questions and find out what Nina is talking about. But that is another aspect of the infinity. And yes, it can be confusing, but it should be figured out. So that way we realize where the real income is coming from.
Yeah.
That's so important.
You truly see the value of the infinity. Like this, you don't really see the value of the infinity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can see how much infinity from each group is what you're talking about.
Yeah, but your total in the end, your total infinity always comes out what your 6654 equals. It's
right.
Always almost equal.
Yeah, that's very interesting that
Yeah.
It is equal. So any questions about the building in depth? Any questions about the fact that generally most directors have one strong leg under them in the beginning? It's up to you as a leader, without perhaps explaining it to them, is making certain that they start developing another leg. That's your job, just as it's your job to make certain you get the depth. Many people don't realize in the beginning what you're doing to create the depth, but that's still your job to do that. And what's the whole point? The point is, how do you get down to the second level, fourth level, fifth level, sixth level, and so on? How do you get down there? It can be, it doesn't matter how. It can be with skin cares. It can be with in-home presentations. It can be with three-way calls. It doesn't matter, but you must get down to working with people at the sixth level. Because what happens, getting down that far or produce a lot of business, and generally this person right here at 4,000 will be the third level director. 1, 2, 3. They'll be the third level director. The third level becomes top priority in that group, because by them being a director, this person is saying, hey, maybe I could develop one more director and be on my way to be on a coordinator and be on the way to the cruise or on a trip. This person says, wow, I've got this good group growing, and if I develop one more, I could be an executive and go on the big trip. I mean, make more income, go on the big trip, so on. What you're creating is belief. And once you have 3 senior executives, you're a master coordinator. Once you have 4 people who are executives, and this is where it's so important to understand the sales plan, so you understand the terms we're talking about and so on, is, 3 of those should be a master coordinator. And of course, should be well over 100,000 a year income. Here's the other thing that's important to understand is that when you look at that, probably for some of you who are a little new or you've been in for a while and you're thinking, wow, this is tough. You don't understand, and you must understand, the dynamics of building in depth, where these people are motivated to do things that they wouldn't do otherwise in building people. You save so much time. You're not building all these people. You've got help. Once you start building the depth of customers, just go with customers. These people will start taking over and they will start doing meetings. Like I talked to Ruth Kuntz on Monday. She was on the key coordinator call, and she was saying it's now finally catching on. I think in 1 week, she had 10 people in her group doing in-home presentations. She did 1. She had 10 in her group doing in-home presentations. When you get to that point, you're getting to the tipping point, and that's where your business explodes. You're not doing it all. So please do not be overwhelmed by looking at this group and saying, this is a tough thing to do. I've been struggling for 5 years trying to become a director or get a director. Don't be overwhelmed with it. You reach a tipping point where other people really start picking up and they're doing the presentations. So you must start picturing what would happen in 1 week if I have 5 people in my group go out and do a group presentation of maybe 3 at each skincare. I have 5 of them, and they have 3 at each. That's 15 new people hearing about Shackley. What would happen, and this is very, very good to set up these calls where people can just hear testimonies. I mean, that is huge. Melky Talberg from New York built her whole business to master coordinatorship by doing conference calls with testimonials every week. Next week, we're going to have somebody talking about healthy children. Next week, we're going to have somebody talking about fibromyalgia. And there'd be other things that'd be talked about. Every week, she'd publicize the next week, and people would be on, and she would have 100, 150 people on just a conference call. They didn't have Zoom going back then. And she built her master coordinatorship. That is powerful. Can you see how it saves so much time and it is so productive? So do not be overwhelmed by looking at this number of people and saying, wow, that's just way out of my league. It's not. It's not. Any questions or comments on this at this point? What are you thinking?
Roland, what I was going to say was that's why it is so important to draw it out like what you've got here, a picture. So they can get a picture of how they're going, how this is all going to work. I mean, it's not going to work exactly like that.
Mm-hmm.
But that is why it is so important to draw that out for people to see and see what's going to happen and what's going to take place. And then the other thing I would say, listen to him.
Well, it is something that people nod their head at and say, yes, that makes sense when we draw it out on paper. But they don't do it for, I don't know really what all the reasons are why they don't do it. But I discovered this in 1976
Yes.
when I asked people, please give me a diagram of your group. And I put them on the wall and of their existing group. And I saw that the people who were the most interested in doing the business was where they had the greatest depth. Where they got most of their volume is where they had the greatest depth. Not necessarily the most number of people, but the most volume, because where there was depth. People that were asking to do the business was where they had the depth. Everything we ask about, how do I get people interested in the business? You get depth of customers. Don't worry about people who are going to sell. Don't worry about people who want to build this business. It'll happen. It'll happen. And I also realized in the very beginning when I got started in Shackley that I had a first level, a second level, and a third level all break out in the same month because I built depth. So it works. It works. It works. We must do that. And if you understand the sales plan and the geometric growth that you get from people downline, of course, you're going to make more money from people downline than from that person that you sponsor and yourself.
Right. Absolutely.
Any other comments on this? Because we want to go through different groups, and I would like to find out from the nippers what things that you're doing to make this happen. Now, we've had a couple three-way calls, and to me, that is a must. I don't care how experienced and good you are. It's just something about bringing somebody else in and saying, hey, this is how they look at it, to support what you're doing. Well, Barry, do you have any comments about what you're planning, what you're looking at, how you're going to do this?
Not really.
Okay.
Just got to find some people to talk to.
Mm-hmm. We talked to a chiropractor last evening.
Correct.
And he's a young guy, 27 years of age, moving from Michigan to Wisconsin. And it's going to take him about 3 weeks before he can set up an office, or 3 months. But he did mention about his brother who has MS, just discovered it, and his mother apparently is in poor health. And so we talked about setting up a three-way call, because there'd be nothing more powerful than if his brother started getting results. That would convince him that Shackley is the best to have in his office. And I don't know what his mother's situation is, but sure love to do a three-way call and get his mother on supplements. I mean, the tendency is to say, well, let me show you, really help you understand how this business works. And that's not the drawing power. I spent a fair amount of time talking to him about this is a business where you've got to help other people. The Shackley philosophy. And after I went through that, he said, well, that fits right in with my line of thinking. Because you got to get people on your team that support your belief. And you may have an incredible belief in the business and so on, but if they don't support that belief because they don't know anything about the business, this guy has tried other products in his office. To him, supplements are good and I want to have good supplements, but he does not have that belief yet. He'll get that belief if his brother starts getting better. And of course, the goal is the brother gets better. We're going to first of all find out, does he know other people with MS? And does it run in the family? Because if he gets results and he's enthused about it, and he likes it, and the chiropractor's enthused about it, you don't want to wait too long, Gary and Anita, to get over there and do a presentation. You want to do it as quickly as possible, because that's when they're the most excited about it. Maggie I guess you don't have sound yet, but you know, I keep thinking of the person we talked to on a three-way. Maggie's from Grand Rapids, and I believe the person had irritable bowel syndrome as a teacher, and just really, really, really. I mean, she's in tears about it. And we had a chance to talk to her, and she's been on the product now for probably, I don't know, 3 weeks. But Maggie sent me a text saying she is elated. I mean, she's so happy. She's feeling so good. She just overjoyed, feeling good. Well, we can sit back and say, that's wonderful, which it is wonderful. But while she still has that incredible wow feeling, that's the time to get somebody under her. And we sometimes keep waiting and thinking, well, she's just going to talk to other people about it. Probably not with your help. She'll mention it, but she doesn't know what to say about it. And so it may not go anyplace. Or she may tell other people exactly what she's taking, and those people will go to GNC and buy the products. I don't know. But in order to build a business, you want to figure out, how are you going to talk to that person? So let's take that situation. This is a customer that got results. Okay? It's Maggie's job to find somebody under her. Now let's look at it this way. The McLeans have stashed away a lot of money. And so by getting a customer under her, one customer, they're going to be paying you $300 a month for the next 50 years. Just one. You get one here. That's your job. It's your job to get one here. They're going to be paying you another $300. You get one here, your job. They're going to pay you an additional $500. So we're down 1, 2, 3. Let's go 4. They're going to give you another $500. And we go down 6 levels. Assume there's another one down there. They're going to give you $1,000. You know what? That business will give you that amount of income every month if you do that. Nina, how much do we have? We got 1,000, 500, 500. There's 2,000, and that's about what, 2,300? 1,000, 5, another 1,000. So anyway, it's going to
The
be.
numbers are wrong, Roland. So you
What?
have to take the volume and then multiply it out. What's first, second, third, fourth, and then you have to multiply by infinity.
No, no, no. I'm not talking. I'm just saying that the McLeans are going to give Maggie extra money of $300 a month for getting somebody here. We're not talking about bonus.
I hear you. Okay, sorry.
Okay, so that's another 300 here, and 500 here, and another 500, and
That's 13.
that's 13, and another 5, and then 1,000.
18, 2,800.
2,800. If you do that, this thing will expand. Other people will be brought in because they get the excitement, they get the feeling. It's going to expand. In fact, you'll end up with a group that has probably about 40 customers by the expansion. And you will start developing directors because you're down 6 levels. After about a year, that business will be giving you about $3,000 a month income. That's monthly. Monthly. So in a sense, that's what you're doing, is just if the McLeans are going to be giving you all this money, just getting those customers, getting those customers, getting those customers, getting those customers, what it will produce for you is $3,000 a month income on the average. Maybe even a little more. And they're not growing to, key coordinator or anything. That'd be a whole lot more money you'd be making. So I don't know if that makes sense or not, but we've got to see the value of building in depth, because it won't happen otherwise. Unless you come across somebody who is just really, really out there hustling the whole thing. And what I talked about with Richard, first of all, we were talking about how many years have been in Shackley and everything else. And he says, I had a chance to be on a Zoom with a few leaders in Shackley. And he said, I just couldn't believe it. He said, all of them have been in Shackley longer than I've been in network marketing. He said, that is so impressive. And he made the point, he said, why would anybody be in a business where you feel it's not going to exist for 50 years or more? That's so impressive. What we have, so impressive. And building in depth, we can do that so much easier than if we were in another company, like I said, that didn't have good products. Questions? What are you thinking?
I can tell you from my experience, I had the thought of how this thing worked. But when you put it down on paper and you see the enormity of a $100,000 a year company, you can't do it by yourself. You've got to go deep. You've got to go a little bit wide, but you've got to go deep. You can't do it without having people that build people that build people. And it becomes reality when you see it on the paper.
Yes, that is so true. Seeing it on the paper, I think for everybody who's done this, they would say the same thing. It's just really opened up our eyes. Mm-hmm. That's so, this is why it's such a must to learn the sales plan. And not to tell everybody. Probably the only person you're going to tell and explain it to is a person who wants to be in the 100,000 club. That's the only person. But you must be prepared to explain it. Courtney, what are you thinking? I know you're thinking. I can see you thinking.
Hi there. Yes, I'm thinking. Well, I have my eye on, I have a couple 6 levels deep that I have had my eye on, and I've been able to reach out and just kind of rebuild that relationship. So I'm definitely working in depth. The way that you had that drawn out is what I need. I've drawn my business, our business out, but the whole, like where you put the dollar signs under each one, I missed the beginning of this call, unfortunately. I had to pick up the girls, but I need to figure that out to figure out, the $100,000 club. Mm-hmm. So that's my next step, is going back to our business drawn out and then figure out the dollar signs.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Can I ask a question, Roland?
Sure.
How many people on here know Infinity?
Know of it or no?
Know how to figure it out.
I don't know how to figure it out.
I think that it would be beneficial to share how to do it. That's just me saying that. If that's too much show and tell, that's your call.
Well, I think that would be something that would be very good on the next call, because it'll give a chance to people to start working on it.
Okay.
Because I think right now it's just it's like a foreign language. Because many people said, I don't understand Infinity, and they have never even looked at it.
I know.
So that would be a good project on the next call, and I would like to do somebody else's organization, say on the next call, and then we can show how we come up with the numbers of Infinity. And it's so important because the Infinity does pay all the way down.
Yeah.
And like I have people, I don't know, 12, 13, 14 levels down that I've never met. And this is the other thing to understand. You'll earn incomes from people you may never meet. You're not getting all those people. You're only getting a few that motivate a lot of other people. But without getting that depth, it's not going to happen. And try to stay away from the business is my recommendation. Because so many people are too quick to try to say to somebody, well, you know, you could do Shackley. You could make an income. And it just turns them off. And if you turn them off, you're not going to get the depth. And so I know in other companies, once again, because they don't have the quality products, the focus is you just keep looking until you find somebody who really, really, really wants to do it. But in Shackley, there's such a high percentage of people who are master coordinators, directors in Shackley, that never came in for the business. So we've got to be very, very cautious about when we introduce the business, unless you want to go through a lot of people and you're good at it. And for me, call it the lazy way of doing it or whatever, but I get the depth with customers. And something's going to happen. And then some other things we want to get into, not on this call or Zoom, but how we work with people who may now have a group under them. And there's some weird situations that come up, and you must handle the weird situations, and I call them elephants in the room. I'll give you an example of someone I talked to this evening who has maybe $700 volume in the group. And I'm certain this person will never see this Zoom, so I'm not going to mention their name or anything, but I'll mention the situation. But it's the type of person who is very, very beautiful on the inside, on the outside, but has a heart of gold, but is so easily overwhelmed and has been for a number of years. And I tried to explain, the longer you're on the diving board, the harder it is to jump in the water. And I said, you've been on the diving board for a long time. So we've talked the other day and talked about things. And I said, well, I want an answer in 48 hours. And so she called me back in 48 hours. And we talked again tonight. And I said, I want you to put on a piece of paper your 3 biggest concerns of doing Shackley. And she says, the first is that I will be so overwhelmed trying to do this. The second concern is that I may not like it, even though she keeps saying I love Shackley. And the third is I may have a failure, and that'll just be another failure in my life. She has taken on jobs that don't pay a lot for the number of years, and single woman, and they've been disappointing jobs, and each one is more overwhelming than the last. And so I said to her, and this is things that we must learn, maybe with a 3-way call with those people, but I said to her, I said, can I tell you what I see? Your goal in life is to be overwhelmed. Those other last 2 reasons do not apply. I said, if you are not going to change that thinking about being overwhelmed, don't even consider trying to do Shackley, because you're looking to be overwhelmed. You're going to find everything that's going to overwhelm you. That's the way you've lived your life for 40 years, and especially in the last few years. It won't work. I said, you know what it's like? It's a child who has been abused, physically abused, but the child feels good about being abused because that's the only thing the child knows. And she said, oh my gosh, no. I said, you're addicted to abusing yourself. It's pretty strong stuff. But if you have it coming from the heart, it's totally different than just saying, here's what's wrong with you. I said, you're abusing yourself on purpose, and you don't even realize it. And so I said, if you want to change, I will help you change. But I don't want an answer now, but you got 24 hours. Because I said, Shackley is the best improvement course you're going to get. You see, if you have failure and you're not looking at being abused with being overwhelmed, but you're out there because you want to help other people instead of all about yourself, then you'll see failure as something you're learning how to do better. But if you have any failure, you're going to say, well, I'm being abused again. overwhelmed. Poor old me. I said, it will never work. So if the answer is no, then I know how to work with the people in that group, and I'm going to leave her out of it. The biggest mistake is trying to have somebody help you that is downline in your group and help you work with the people in their organization. They've got a bad attitude. It's the worst thing you can do. So it'll be very clear to her that you are not ready to move ahead, but I will be working with your people. Do you understand that it's not going to hurt you? But you're not ready to step into Shackley. I don't know what her answer is going to be. I know what she wants to do. And there's tons of potential that I can see where the people in her group are saying, recently we got on products, and they're saying, oh, I feel so good with it. It's so wonderful. I feel the door is opening up. But because she's looking at overwhelmness in the new job that she's trying to get into, oh, so depressing. Oh, the long hours of training. I said, you know, when you took a trip to Florida, I never heard you complain once about being overwhelmed because it's something you wanted to do. But you have created a life of being overwhelmed. And I went one step further and I said, can I tell you the crystal ball? I said, I don't care if you change. It's up to you if you want to change. It's not my decision. And work on your confidence. I can help you with that. Or if you get the help someplace else, it's not Shackley. I said, I'm concerned about you and your life. Because if you continue with what you're doing, you're going to be a very unhappy person. You're going to lose friends because all you do is talking about being overwhelmed. It's all negative. And I said, you're going to end up being a grumpy person and one day saying, I wish I had. Oh, I missed it all. So I don't care if it's up to you if you're going to change, but if you're going to change, whether you change through Shackley or you find somebody else to help you change, but it's going to be tough doing it on your own. It's going to be really tough because somebody's got to have tough love. But I said, it's not going to work the way it is right now. As a leader, you must be able to step up and say things that must be said because that's what's going to happen. That's part of leadership. But it is so rewarding. It is so rewarding to help people to change their lives. It really is. Comments or other questions? What do you think as I'm talking about that?
Roland, you're exactly right on. It is so important when you go to working with somebody that, okay, the first level, you know, they're not there yet in their thinking. But they've got somebody first, second, third level under them that does, and they want to. If you try to bring that other person in that's on the top or in between or whatever, and they're not on the same page, they waste all the work that you have done or what you could accomplish with down here, with down below. I've seen this happen over and over and over again. And, you know, they want to complain and say, well, you know, we don't want to hurt their feelings or whatever. Mm-hmm. What about all the people that down here that are not going to be helped with Shackley because I say, well, I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to hurt this person's feelings. Mm-hmm. Baloney.
Yeah, because I look at it from the Shackley philosophy. I'm in this business to help people, and I don't want somebody standing in between keeping me from helping somebody that has a child with ADD. That's the way I look at it. Mm-hmm. Amen. Kathy, you had a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, here in Florida, it's a different story because I've been here 18 years and I really don't have a whole lot going on down here. So I did try a new tactic because I don't know people, you know, it's not like my family's here and the whole bit, you know, I don't have there's not a lot of roots here. So lately, and it's been working pretty well is like if I'm in, like I was in a restaurant the other day and the girl was super friendly. I thought she was pretty quality. And I asked her if this was her career. And she started laughing. And she's about 40-ish. And I got out of her a lot of information. Single mom, just recently, has kids, doesn't want this to be her life. And I said, would you be interested in an income that could give you $100,000 a year in a pretty short, period of time? And she said, yeah. So I got her name and number and all that. And I says, now, I don't want to bother you at all, but I want you to answer your phone if I'm going to call her. I'm not going to bother. And she goes, oh no, I promise you, I will answer my phone. I will text you and whatever. And I've had to use that tactic here because if I try to talk to somebody about nutrition or whatever, there's 50 or 60 MLMs down here because there isn't industry. It's just MLMs and people in their own businesses, small businesses. So, but yet in Indiana, it's going through what you said, is I have to go through like talking to the people as far as getting them on the products, getting them excited, wanting their mom, their sister, their daughter, their cousin. And that's how I grew my whole business in Indiana. But if you're in an area or you're going to be dealing with another area and maybe you could just find out, I had to go right to the business. They didn't want to hear anything about nutrition or whatever. And I'm telling you, I've been trying hard. And why could I build it in Indiana, but I couldn't build it in Florida? So I just wanted to throw that in there that sometimes if it's, if I would have been talking to the server and said, hey, do you want to feel better in 30 days or whatever like that? They just look at me. It's a whole different thing. So I'm going to get back to you and let you know how that's working here. But I think it's the area that you're in. I just said to somebody today, I don't know if I would have ever built a business if I wasn't in the Midwest.
Well, that's a good point. We must understand a couple of things. One, the geographical area we are in, because the incomes in that area make a difference as well. And the other thing is the seasons we're in. And this is a season where maybe as we get closer into December that there are less in-home meetings going on, but many people still would like to try the skincare, and that's a great opportunity to say, maybe this is something your spouse would buy for you for Christmas. Or, let's get creative. Let's get creative in what we do. Okay, well, I want to thank all of you for being on. Next week, we would like to look at someone else's organization, and we'd also like to explain the infinity because I think that would help for everybody. And so there is no perfect way, but there are things that kind of wash out, you might say, a certain type of organizations and so on, because it's generally following the 80-20 rule. And if you have 4 first levels, there'll probably be one that is very, very strong, but they will motivate other people probably to become coordinators that would not become coordinators otherwise. So all those things happen. So thank you for being on. I really appreciate your comments, and thank you again for the NEPers being so far ahead in making this plan and being able to share it with everybody else. And of course, I'm going to be working with the NEPers and helping them to find other people and to find somebody else who wants to be making $100,000 a year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Roland.
You bet.